if we want to drain the swamp, we must understand the swamp. If we're going to understand the swamp, we have to understand and identify the creatures that are inside the swamp. Now, the swamp is filled with various creatures. Some of these creatures propagate fear. Some of these other creatures promulgate war in order to create a profit. But either way, both require one thing: the creation of a conflict, or the perception of the creation of a conflict. So let's put on our thinking caps for a moment, shall we? Congratulations to the Buckeyes yesterday. They played really well there in Spartan Stadium up there in East Lansing. To my buddy Leroy, haha, man, we got you, brother. And to the other team up north, we'll see you in a couple weeks, right after Thanksgiving. Don't eat too much turkey. But then again, it's been a rough decade for y'all. I feel your pain. I did live through the 90s as a Buckeyes fan under the reign of John Cooper. And the funny part is, one of my best bosses in the Navy was actually named Cooper. That's crazy. But anyway, we got our thinking caps on. We're going to identify some tyranny. Back to the whiteboard. All right. What I've done here is just got a couple shapes. I need to get another different color in here to make it better. But this is something similar to the presentation I made to my city council here the other day when they were expanding the DEA grant and allowing a police officer to live 50 miles away from the city. And when you live out in a desert community, that's excessive. And that's pretty much what I was saying. My response to that, since that was excessive, is I recommended that every resident should be able to raise 50 cannabis plants in their backyard, one exchange for the other. Of course, it was dismissed as being extreme, but they can't comprehend that the true extreme thing is expanding the footprint of a force that's designed to police to a community standard, vice enforce the law. But anywho, this red circle on the outside here, this is each and every one of us. This is our lives. This is our life. Our life comes with natural rights that come from our Creator. Our rights do not come from government, because anything that government provides to you, it could also just as easily take away. So we don't want anything coming from government, because if we get something from government, it could take it away. So our natural rights come from our Creator. I call it God. My Savior is Jesus Christ. But you are free in the land of liberty to believe whom and what you believe in. And I'm not judging in either way, and I hope you don't judge me, because this is not what it's all about. This is about constitutional government. The Constitution confines the government to a box in which it can operate. What we have here in town, in Sierra Vista especially, and I suspect if this is going on here, it's going on in other places around the world and around the country, is that we're expanding the box. All right? The best place to do that is at the corners. Because if you expand the box at the corners, one corner they all respond and have to expand anyway. But we're already taxed at 40%. If you add in all the different various taxes, from income to vehicle registration to utility to water to communications to whatever, we're taxed. And it's going to be 40% or more, which is, oddly enough, 3/5 of a person. It all plays in, guys. It does. It all goes back. Numbers matter. But what we've done is we're expanding this box so that our private life, here, shouldn't be interfered with anybody, right? This is our private life. Private, as in nobody else's business. But when we go out in public to either create value, which is over here, we intersect with government in this area right here. But when you expand this box, you're creating more areas where we potentially can intersect with it. Right? Can you see that? And same thing over here. This area here is our public-private life. For when you go to church or you peaceably assemble elsewhere and you go out into town. Creating more areas for conflict here. But what is the true and rational reasoning behind this? Well, in my community, it's twofold, threefold. It's actually, I haven't identified every single one, but the baseline is it comes down to money. And on the international border, it comes down to federally funded financial grants of financial privilege. But the funny part is that this DEA grant is going to put more people in prison. You know what Arizona has a lot of? It has a lot of prisons. Some of these prisons are private. Some of them are public. The private ones have contracts that guarantee 85%, an occupancy rate of 85%. Which, I'm a veteran. All right, I joined the military and the Navy and served in the submarine force to defeat communism. But what I found, communism had political prisoners. We can all agree upon that. What the United States has, it has private prison system with nonviolent offenders in it. So the person violated a policy approved by politicians and enforced by police. Can you see how that works right there? And when you have a police force that is no longer identifies themselves as police force, but they identifies themselves as law enforcement, their only job is to keep the private and public prison systems full by enforcing the law. Not policing to a community standard, but enforcing the law. And when you bring in folks from the outside that are not part of the community, or you permit people who are being paid by the community to enforce the law outside of it, it's really a violation of the Constitution. And it would be a violation of the Arizona Constitution because the supreme law enforcement officer per each county is the elected sheriff. So we have, in essence, created a intelligence collecting, law enforcing officer paid for by the city, funded by federal grants, to work outside of the boundaries of the city and outside of the boundaries of the county. Because Sierra Vista is not only on the border, international border, but it's also on the border of Cochise County, on the western border, which butts up against Santa Cruz County. And Pima County. There's a lot of, this isn't about law enforcement officers. This isn't about policemen or women. This is about government being confined to its constitutional box. And when it exceeds that authority, that we delegate it to it, because this is a government that's supposed to be of the people, by the people, and for the people. What it's morphed into is a government that protects its morning constitution before it protects the federal constitution and the state of Arizona's constitution. That's all. It's exceeded its authority under the guise of public safety. Well, I live in the safest place along the international border. There are now troops rolling in up on Fort Huachuca for this surge of immigrants coming across the border, which there's a reason people in the Southwest are armed. Because A, it's our natural right to preserve our own lives and our property. And the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution says it shall not be infringed. Now it's further on down the line and protected in the Arizona Constitution. But you can't ask for more government to solve a problem that it itself has created. It's a vicious cycle. It's almost like in the 90s, when everyone was so tired of the overreach of the federal government into their private lives, that they were ready to put their foot down until a new enemy was created for you to unify behind the government to preserve our God-given rights as Americans. But trying to tie this in a bow. If you perceive there is a problem will be shown to you on the box on the wall. The box on the wall has grants, of federally funded grants of financial privilege to use the public airwaves to transmit a broadcast to the various channels. None of us were there, not all of us. Some of us may have been. But if you're not there, there's more than one side to a story. I used to do a demonstration of this when I was an instructor for the Army. Bring 4 soldiers up, have them all have their backs against each other, one facing me, 2 this way, and 1 facing the other way. I would clap my hands and push the one soldier into the back. These 2 cats would see the slap, they'd feel the push, but they all had different points of reference to what actually occurred. When you blindly put the faith of what you see on television and what is fact, you're doing yourself a disservice. You've been lied to in the past, you will be lied to in the future, and it's all done in order to keep us divided. There is more in this world that unites us than the petty bullcrap that is dividing us, folks. And it's not just in America, it's people in the world, humanity itself. I once stood on a Russian warship of the former Soviet Union, shook the hand of a fellow sailor, and we came to an agreement, and we said to a translator that we not fight each other, because up until that point, it was a faceless, nameless enemy. But when you humanize it, it makes sense why governments create war and humans don't. Because, like I said, there's more that unites us than divides us. Peace to all friends, caution to all enemies, and no quarter to tyrants. My name is Michael DiCarlo. This is DiCarlosDanger.com. Peace out. See you later.